getting your bees? Okay.
Not yet.
No. It's been a bit cold for me too, so, yeah. Okay, so let's get, we're down to the agenda, we'll follow the agenda pretty closely since Heather made such a nice job of getting it done for me, so I'm gonna take my pencil here. All right, we had a little issue with one of our officers, so we're gonna get a new one, vice president. I guess he took one look at the cabinet and saw they were all women and probably bailed out. But I'm going to use that excuse because it's more fun than it, than thinking I did something wrong. In any case, Eric has decided that he's probably not up for the job, so we're going to elect a new vice president. But essentially, we have a volunteer, so usually it just takes a show of hands in that case. So Heather's volunteered. Okay. Oh.
I've been here for 5 seconds. There you go.
There's a show of support for you.
Thank you.
Okay, good. So that took care of that. All right. Social media people, let's see. I'm going to let them talk about that.
Okay.
All right. So Cammie's not here, but you're going to take it.
Yeah, do you just want me, it'll just take 1 second. So we just want everybody to know, I think we said last time that we were initiating so that we can make payments on the website, so people didn't actually have to come to the.
There you go, our new vice president. Okay.
Yes, you're so in trouble. So, thank you.
You want my mic?
No, I'll stand next to you. So basically, we did get it done so that Kevin is our wonderful website person, and he has created the proper channels to make it so that you can go onto our website and sign up to be a member that way through Stripe. If you potentially worked with websites at all, it's just the name of the company that you can go through, and it's all 100% secure. He got us a security certificate, I think is what I want to say. And so now when people go through, they can sign up and they can use a credit card and they can pay for an online registration. So it'll take into effect the new $15, $20, $15 individual, $20 family. And I don't think there was really anything else to tell you. We were just sort of working through, getting their basic information on that page, but it'll all be secure and it won't be sent out to the public. And other than that, it just took a while for him to be able to process the paperwork.
They've got it where they can answer a little form that says why you're interested in beekeeping or why you're interested in joining the bee club. Maybe you're just here to learn for a year before you get your own hive or something. It's just all a little questionnaire that I thought was pretty good for anybody new to the buzz.
We have a lot of people on our email who aren't officially joining up every year, so we're hoping that maybe this prevents any barriers where maybe they couldn't come to the meetings, or even if they don't live in the area anymore but they still want to stay members and stay in the loop. So we'll find out once it all goes live.
What's the website address again?
The website, CheathamCountyBeekeepers.com.
I know I have it.
Right? I have that right, correct?
I hope so,
somebody-
because if you get the Viagra one, just ignore it and try again.
Well, I think we actually
I'm
fixed that.
serious, right?
I think we
You
fixed
guys
it.
told me. I'm just repeating it. Probably should watch what I repeat. It's more fun if you live a little. Okay. All right, speaking of living a little, let's see, we've got that website done. So now we can collect money from people we don't even know, which is great, But I'd like to know that you're getting something out of it, all right? So, all right. Buying bees, we've talked about the bees. We're essentially going to try living on the bees we produce locally. Okay, so we've got Mickey's got some. Yeah, you got any nukes? You'll have them end of April.
I don't have any older winter ones left. I'll have some mid to late April nukes.
Okay. And I've got just about 3 or 4, but I can make a hive. I can make a 5-frame leak out of another hive if I need to. So if somebody needs a a nuke or something like that, get in touch with me and we'll work it out.
Yeah.
I don't need 27 hives at my age, okay? So, but that being said, I am getting 30 queen cells coming in tomorrow, so I'll need everybody's help who wants to come help to split hives tomorrow.
Yeah, I can come tomorrow.
Oh, great. Anybody else? You know, I'm not putting you up, I'm not showing, you know, you don't have to
After
indicate
school
you
will
can
go.
or not can, but we're gonna be going through some hives and just splitting them, essentially trying to get a place to put queen cells in. So we'll let them come out and get mated on their own, hopefully. You know, the problem is, I'm asking around, there's hardly any drones out there, so. It might have been, you know, a lesson learned for me, but we'll give it a shot. Let's see. Other members, Maple Bend in Murfreesboro sells bees, so if you need to look them up. The Bee Barn in Paducah usually has nukes and packages. And it's a drive up there, but the guy's really nice, Chuck Collins, so. And then there's also some, one thing I didn't bring was our listing of the Zooks, one in Kentucky and one down in, where is he right now? Lawrenceburg area, but he moved. Etheridge, yeah, Etheridge. So if you need those particular people who have bees, just give me a holler later or email and I'll make sure I get you the contact information. All right. All right, I bugged Mike Studer about 4 times during the TBA conference. We've been trying to get an inspector class here for 3 years. And he's promised me that if I get a request in with 2 days specifically made for an inspector class, that he'll do his best to get us an inspector class.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, he does the classes Monday and Tuesday night. Okay? So I think it's 2 nights, and you get the bee inspector class, which is probably a lot of learning, okay, but then you can also become an inspector. Now, part of that inspection is you go out and inspect other people's hives, and you do the fancy thing with your phone and figure out how many hives they've got and put it all online so that you can be registered with the state. And registered with the state gives you so many advantages. Should someone steal your hives, should some farmer throw a bunch of chemicals on your hives, there's just a number of advantages of being registered with the state, so keep that in mind. And how many would be interested in coming to a bee inspector class on like a Monday and Tuesday evening class? I just want to get a ballpark figure to see how many would be interested.
Don't you have to have some?
You have to have so many years, you have to have,
5 years.
I don't think, I'll have to see, I'll get with him, but I don't think 5 years of beekeeping or,
Yeah, that's what he said at the conference.
what'd he say?
He said 5 years
5 years,
of beekeeping.
okay?
learn?
So,
You know?
and if there's room in the back of the room, I don't care who's there, okay?
Hey, we'll bring snacks, how about that? We'll bring
That's
snacks.
5 years to be an inspector, and
I just send it back to room.
I think you can go to the class without becoming an inspector, you know, because I know people who have. So,
So does it stop? Is it going to be easy? Because I only got like 6 months.
I would like to try just to get the knowledge. So then we have at least 6 to 8 people, do you
So
think?
you have to have.
Maybe if
I think they may, we have raised our hand.
Huh?
We have raised our hand.
Can you raise your hand again if you're willing to come to an inspector class?
Yeah, I should come.
Yeah.
10.
All right, we got about 10 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It's to their advantage.
that being said, once it's out on the line, on the internet, other counties who have been trying to do the same thing might try and nose in and get a few seats from us or something. If we can work that up. Hiccups.
This is
Growing pains.
probably gonna be later in the year, isn't it, when he's not as
Yeah,
busy?
we're looking at, July or September, I think.
Okay.
And the reason being is I won't be here in August and I want to come, so. So anybody else got strange requirements, that's one of them. Okay, hopefully after I would hope after June, okay?
He
So,
said he was booked up through June at the meeting, at that conference.
well, then it'd be after June then.
Yeah, he told us to already.
We could try for July or August, or July and September, like I said, so. So we've got at least 10 people, that's good. All right, let's see what's next on this thing. All righty. We're gonna have a little roundtable discussion. The people who went to the TBA conference can come up and sit maybe in this table up here. We're gonna let everybody ask you questions, or we're gonna have you look at your notes and tell us one thing you learned while you went to the class, if you don't mind. Now I know Robin and Nikki went, so up you come. And Heather and Chris. Jenna went. Yeah.
Just gonna notice that.
Yeah. Just gonna ask everybody, for each person will give me an idea what you learned, okay? We can start with Kason. One thing that you learned at the conference.
So at the conference I learned that, what was it? It takes a long time to become an inspector. I can't remember exactly how many different classes you need to take, but you need to have the 5 years. And then, yeah, it was like a whole conference of Mike Studer talking and us asking questions and stuff. Yeah, it was fun, but yeah, it does take a lot to become an inspector. But the classes to become an inspector, even if you're not going to become one, is important.
Okay,
Yeah, that was fun.
what'd you learn?
I learned about them little boxes that they were, that guy was making. I don't know if you guys seen them. He had the little bamboo sticks inside there.
Yeah, that was, you remember what it was called?
No, I don't.
It was like a sleep. No, it's like a
Different ways to put your bees in boxes, okay? So
Yeah.
the old Langstrom hive is, ho-hum anymore, okay? So everybody's got a different way of keeping the bees in front of them at all times. And then in this case, the little boxes were almost looked like a tree that had been hollowed out, only square.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of what it looked
Yeah,
like.
he
And
had
you
these
use
little
just
bamboo sticks in there.
little bamboo sticks in there, and the bees build down on it, and they fill it all up.
Yeah, and also another type of hive we saw was, it's like a V hive, and then you put bamboo sticks on top, or more like wooden blocks on the top, and they just naturally build down. And it's pretty
I
cool.
can't remember the name of that one either.
Yeah, it's like a, I'll have to search it up, but yeah, it was cool. Like they build down, so you don't have to put the frames in and stuff, so you just gotta put the sticks in.
And they actually forms like a little triangle down underneath there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just pick up the sticks and move them around, yeah. In any case, Heather,
Okay, nothing like putting me on the spot. So I watched Mike Studer talk about pests. He did a thing on pests. I know some other people were there. And I thought the things he talked about American foul brood was very interesting, and European foul brood, and I didn't realize that European foul brood was curable, and the American foul brood is not. And he talked about the corkscrew larva, I said lava, being identifying characteristic of American foul brood. And then he also showed a lot of pictures about kind of like when you bring out the, yes, Jen is doing it, like you swirl the cell, and then when you bring it out, it's really stringy and smells bad. And when we were at Morgan's house the other day, and Chris was looking in her hives, she lost all her bees, and he was swirling around in there and kind of pulling it out. And I was thinking, oh, okay, that's exactly what Mike Studer was talking about. And what also I thought was interesting was that we hear so much about American foul brood in general, but he said out of all of the samples that he had submitted last year for potential American foul brood, he had 0. 0. And I was like, I think he said, you guys can correct me, I thought he said like 500 samples or something that were submitted, and he.
Yeah,
and
people
he
will
didn't
kill
have
their
any
hives
none.
thinking they have American foul brood
Yes.
before testing.
That's what he said. And he said, please don't do that. Please don't burn your hive, because I had 0 cases last year.
What were they swirling around?
The cells, correct me if I'm not saying it right.
Take a cell and if you take like a matchstick and you swirl the dead pupa that's in there.
Oh,
It'll
okay.
rope.
It'll rope out, so it'll make this long, stringy,
Slime.
yeah.
Okay.
And that's just a way to kind of say that, well, is that what it was that was potentially the killer of the hive?
Okay. Thank you.
That's what I did.
Were you guys counting as one?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sure he thinks we count.
she always says that.
Jenna's gonna give a talk a little bit later. You wanna save that for then? And you can pass on this one then, yeah. Rhonda?
I missed a lot of it, I was coming from out of town, but I went to queen rearing class with Cameron Reynolds, so I was really interested. I did learn that I'm probably gonna YouTube it for some confidence when I get ready to really do it. Well, I did buy a special frame, I didn't know there was a special frame, I've never done anything like that before. So that's something I wanna do this year, I bought some little pieces on there to wrap, and I have done. Last year, I did take a couple of queen cells out. We did talk about, you take the cells out and move and split stuff, and that worked out really good for me. At times, though, I didn't think I had a queen. I guess you were all doing their thing. So it's kind of, you just kind of touch and go. It's kind of a little bit I learned.
Yeah, and you gotta also have a lot of that royal jelly that the bees produce. I wonder if you could ever make like an artificial royal jelly. Like just like,
Well, why mess with perfection?
well, like why not?
I mean,
Because we're all about
I'm
natural.
putting out pollen substitute right now, but,
Like something
you know,
you see on
but-
Facebook, just insert this in your queen
Yeah.
cells.
Yeah.
It'll grow twice as large.
Nikki, did you pick up anything you didn't know
Yeah, I was
before?
looking for something new and exciting, but came back on 2 or 3 different occasions where they mentioned that March was the worst month for dead outs because of starvation.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the reason for that is the bees get too far away from the food. And most of the 2 or 3 times it was brought up, the teaching ended up being move the food to the brood, which I've been doing the last week or 2. And I'm going in, if I don't see honey close to the brood, the mass of bees and the brood, then I move it over there next to them. They'll eat
Good
it
idea.
out. They'll
So-
eat it out, and then she can plant eggs in that frame after they eat the honey out. So not gonna be any problems with it. So I'm moving the food to the brood, I guess is the right way to put it, where I can. Some places I don't have food, some places, the brood's already big enough, it's met the food, but if it's not, then I'm just moving some empty frames and moving it over there to it.
Okay.
And I thought that was interesting. I heard 2 or 3 different speakers mention it last week.
Oh, good. Good. Anybody else? Go ahead.
So one of the sessions I was in was Cayman's springtime session.
Or is queen rearing?
No, I was the one before,
Oh.
the day before. And he was talking about if you have problems with hive beetles, and we have, one of our hives, we did a trap out, so we got from a tree, so of course we have hive beetles. But what he was saying is if you're trying to kill the hive beetles towards the end of the year or summer, it's actually too late. Putting those traps in with our favorite mineral oil helps, but it's not going to do much of anything. He says if you really want to get rid of hive beetles, obviously apiary area is the best, but you really need to kill the hive beetles at the beginning of spring. And I forgot the ratio, I want to say it was 1 to 1,000, but a spring hive beetle, one spring hive beetle is like 1,000 in the summer, something like that, some ratio. So kill them early, and it will help prevent them in the later in the fall, summer.
Yeah, Cayman puts, I wrote notes on that one too. Cayman puts his hive beetle traps all season long. especially early spring through winter, okay?
Okay.
And some of them have, just to trap them, you can use some of these Swiffer sheets. Just put it up on top of the inner cover, or you can use little traps that you can put either oil in them, or you got traps that you can put diatomaceous earth. I use that, mainly because I don't want to cut the little suckers up, but
Where do I find diatomaceous earth or?
at the co-op,
Okay.
Amazon.
Amazon, everything's on Amazon. Yeah,
Probably buy bees.
you can get it at Lowe's and Home Depot, and
Okay.
co-op's got, and I mean, you're looking at a big bag, because they also use it for using it in your garden to cut up worms on cabbages and things like that. So, you know, as a natural preventative. You know, so what you got?
We learned that it really ain't that expensive to try to do the queen grafting. You know, after he came and talked about it, we went to that same class, and we went and bought some queen cups and the grafting tools, and it wasn't but $20 or $30, you know, so we're gonna try it. We ain't never tried it, didn't think we'd ever try it, but why not? For $30, you know, $20 or $30, why not try it? Because,
I'll tell you what you'll
You know,
feel, at least I did. I felt sad if I took a little larva out and he didn't make it, okay?
Yeah.
So, all right, I
I
have
feel
a
bad
soft
when I
side, don't let that out.
out.
Yeah. But yeah, you're more than welcome to come over to my place when I'm gonna be doing that later this year, or Mickey's place, and if that's okay, Mickey, I volunteer you for it.
Grafting
You
in
know?
April and May.
If we can get Tyler in here once in a while, we can get him. Anybody else graft? Willing to show? Okay. All right. You can also, or one of the things that, with one of the conference things I learned was you can consider drone frames, those green frames that everybody wonders what those green frames are for. You stick them in there and the queen will lay eggs, and they're just the right size for drones, so the bees make massive quantities of drones in there. Then you take it out and stick it in the freezer when they get capped, because the mite will go to a drone cell before they'll go to anything else. And so when you stick them in the freezer, they'll die. And then you just put the same frame back in there, the bees will clean it up, and you're all done. So if you haven't seen those green frames, you'll, just take a look at some of the catalogs or something that when you're looking for good, cool stuff. And let's see. Oh, here's one that I highlighted, okay. If you have a kiddie pool and a block of mineral salt, and if you have a pool in your house, the bees will go to the kiddie pool with a block of mineral salt in it before they go to the pool. So if your neighbors are complaining about your bees getting in their pool because they have a saltwater pool, or they have some chemicals in their pool that the bees want, then that's what I'm going to do this year. I'm going to I have 2 kiddie pools up there that the dog uses. He can be without one, I'm pretty sure. So I'll just stick it out there closer than your neighbor's pool so that they have an option to go there. And maybe that'll take care of your neighbors who don't like bees in their pools.
Tractor Supply mineral block, $9.
Tractor Supply mineral block, $9. It's worth $9 for
Yes,
you
it is.
to get away from that.
Just a mineral block or a salt block?
It's salt. It's mineral salts.
So it's the brown one?
It's the brown one.
Yeah, it's the brown one.
Yeah, Tractor Supply didn't have any brown ones like that anymore.
So make sure you put some blocks and breaks in there, because if not, the bees will just drown themselves.
Fair.
Yeah, I was thinking of, floating a couple of little sticks in there,
Yeah, you can put a piece of 2 out.
grass,
stuff like that.
straw, a little bit of everything, maybe in a circle or something. Yeah. I heard that, but I'm not going to repeat it. Okay.
Sure.
For our area, Middle Tennessee, you have to treat your bees in July, or after you've harvested the honey. When you do that, be sure you don't. Make sure you read the directions on your choice of treatment. One of the things that he mentioned was that a lot of people's bees died when they used hop guard, because you just stole their honey, so they don't, maybe they don't have any food in the hive. If you put hop guard on a hive without food in the hive, it kills the bees. So just be aware of that. That was one of the things that I didn't know about. So, let's see. If you know anybody that can make bee box branding tools, I sure would like to know. So, because that's one of the things to keep people from stealing your bee boxes.
Yeah.
All right, okay. And let's see. Anybody not have their bees registered? It's really simple. Yeah.
I mean, we don't have the bees to register.
Can you do that online? Yeah, you can register your bees. It doesn't cost anything. Just register them. It gives you also, if they do find something nearby that gets very contagious with bees, then they can come and tell you because you're right close.
Did you do it every year?
Huh?
Did you do it every year?
It's every 2 years. 2 or 3 years, yeah. So
What's the website?
it would, shoot, what would be it?
I've got a copy of the form.
What's that?
Tennessee, Governor.
Tennessee Gov, I think, yeah. Let's see what else we do. Thanks, folks. What about scions? Mickey, you want to talk about scions?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Haven't done anything with the swarm catcher. It's not a swarm trap, it's a swarm catcher. Called Russian scion. And if you guys were here last year, you remember I told you I was going to give it a try. Just pass these around. And I'm going to tell you the pictures are pretty much a telling story of the success. But these guys, I'll tell you how easy it is to make them. Just pass them around. And all I'm doing is putting a 2x4 in the air, 8 or 10 feet. Put a cross member on it, and I've got a cover on this one so it keeps the frame dry. And then hanging under that 2x4 is a frame, an old brood frame. And like the ones you put in your swarm trap boxes, the older the better. You know, smelly, brown, black, they don't care. I spray a little lemongrass oil on it, and I put it out in the yard in an open area. I've tried 30 different places, and 2 of them were hits, as you can see in the pictures. I got so busy, I put a frame under a frame on one of them, and I caught 2 swarms at one time.
You use Swarm Commander too, right?
I do. Same thing. Yeah.
So you're catching your own swarm.
I caught all of my own swarms, and others too. Yeah, I caught swarms coming in from the woods too. The swarms will come to an apiary because of the smells. You know, they smell the honey and the brood and all that. The reason I know that because I have a friend down the road that had bees, and he had an apple orchard, and I went down there and got swarms out of those apple trees many times, and they weren't his. Because his hives turned out to be empty. Okay, he lost his bees, but the swarms kept coming. And the really good thing about these things, when you take, if you put them on right, and I use J-hooks and hang these with a wire through the frame, and I just hang these up. And if you've ever caught a swarm, you know how much trouble it is to get bees from point A to point B. All you got to do is reach up there and take that frame off and put it in a new box.
Because the queen will probably be on that frame, right?
Take it down the road.
No, don't take them anywhere. Take them right where they're going, right where I'm going to keep them in line. And the queen's in there. You can look for her, but I don't mess with it. If that swarm is this thick, the queen's in there.
So are you using a regular deep frame, or are you using your?
Well, I don't do any deeps.
Okay.
You know, I had 86 hives last summer, and everything was mediums. Everything. So I don't do any deeps. So if I hung a deep up there, I wouldn't have a place to put it. So everything is mediums.
8 to 10 foot highs like the secret.
Is what?
8 to 10 foot highs like the optimum.
Yeah, I used
height.
8'2" before, and I just drive a T-post in the ground and wire it to it, you know.
Oh.
There's no weight up there. But you'll need a little ladder to get up there and get your bees down.
2x4s are too expensive today.
But,
Billing.
I guarantee you these things work, you know. And,
Especially if you're not home to watch where they're going, you know, they like to go to
It's so
200
easy.
foot
It's
from
so
the
easy,
hive.
it's not even funny, you know.
Did you just, if you didn't want to put a post up, if you had a tree nearby, could you just put it on the tree?
Yeah, I thought about that, because I had a pin oak that I caught 2 or 3 swarms in the past out of that pin oak, just barely above, you know, reaching height. I thought, man, I'll just hang a couple old frames in there. Well, I started doing this before I did that. Same difference, same theory.
You hit them with the lemongrass on?
Just a little bit, don't do much. But
It's
you
a lot
need-
easier to catch them when they're just swarming, unless they're up in a 35-foot tree, which is my problem. There's a couple of trees I'd like to cut down right in front of them because they always go to the top.
And, you know, if you put one up and it's there for 2 weeks and nothing happens, try a different place. You know, just pick everything up, move it 50 feet away and see what happens. So they do have some patterns to their madness.
How long do you have, you have to take it down? How long does it stay there before they go somewhere else?
Until they find a place to live.
Well, I don't know, I don't leave them there very long. But I tell you what, the first one took off, I put it up for like 1 or 2 days. You know, this was in probably March or April. I've got dates where I caught. April the 4th was the first one I caught last year on one of these things. And I'd gone somewhere and was gone half the day and came back. When I got there, Sharon said, "Oh, you got bees down there on your post." I went, "What the heck is she talking about?" So I started walking down to the beehives and I heard them. It was one of these pictures. They were just completely covered it up. And it filled 2 new boxes. My first swarm I caught on. So that sold me. But if you want to go online, you know, just look up Russian Scion, S-C-I-O-N. And there's any number of different designs. The one you see in the picture is the easiest one, I think. Just tack them together and stick them in the air.
Just remember on your swarm traps, be sure and put some empty frames in there. You want empty, fresh, just foundation in there because they're coming to build wax. You just want one to get the queen laying really quick so they're not going to guard off on you. I've had a swarm go up in that tree that I talked about, 35 feet up in there. And they stood up there, and they stayed up there for 3 days of rain. And they finally decided, well, it wasn't a good day, so they went right back into the hive that they came out of. Tanked up and left again. Okay. So they'll stay up there until they find a place that they consider good enough for them, okay? So, let's see what else we got on. We've got the most important part of the day. We've got a speaker. Yay! Jen O'Brien is a fairly new beekeeper, aren't you, Jen? Jen?
I was at noon.
New? Real new.
Feeling new?
Yep. Anyway, she went to the conference, TBA conference, but she also went to a class on how to do some other things. So she's going to talk about that. And look at that, she comes prepared.
Chris, do you want to give her your mic?
I'd love to get to this.
For the thing, yeah.
Was anybody else at the advanced class in Nashville recently? No, yay, you won't know from lying to you. Wonderful. So I did take some notes. I'm going to do my best to summarize the talk that Clarence gave, Clarence Paulson. He's a professor from Mississippi State. He's also a published author. He's a real teacher. Type this guy's name into YouTube and you will be learning things and entertained. He's a true teacher. I am not, bear with me, but this is all from him, okay? So we are gonna talk about pheromones in the hive. I almost titled this communication in the hive, but it's not true that pheromones are a bee's only form of communication, right, in the hive. They can do the wagging dance, and then there's a few times that bees make noises, also picking noise with the queen situation. But pheromones is the true bread and butter of daily communication within the hive. Bees don't have fur, feathers, or teeth, like other animals. My dog communicates with his hair, he'll change his body. His hackles will go up if he wants to send a message to somebody. My turkeys will do all sorts of things with their feathers if they're trying to communicate different ways. Teeth, we all know what that means, right, in the animal kingdom. Bees don't have that. Their language is this invisible, amazing communication through pheromones. So that's what we're going to talk about today. You guys have the bullet points already, so if this is just a fumble, you already have the main points right in your own hands. So pheromones, if my dad was here, this would be a totally different conversation. He's a biochemist. We're talking about alcohols, organic acids, esters, aldehydes, right, organic chemistry, benzene rings and such. I'm not going to go that deep, but that is what we were talking about. It's absolutely incredible chemical communication. So pheromones are chemical substances that affect the behavior and physiology of another individual. It's really amazing. So pheromones drive everything within the hive. All bees produce pheromones. I did not know that until the other day. Even the brood is producing pheromones. And all these pheromones drive everything within the hive. I didn't say that enough yet. That is the takeaway point. So we're going to talk about endocrine and exocrine glands. Endocrine means inner, so produced internally, so that stays within the bee. And then there's exocrine glands. This is a picture of the wax glands. So that would be substances that the bees produce outside of their body, right? Venom, jelly, beeswax, and pheromones. Okay. So this is a picture of a queen bee and all of her different opportunities for pheromones to come out, all of her different glands. The first one we're going to talk about is this Stuffer's gland in her abdomen. I'll show you a better picture of that. We'll talk about a few of these, but first is the Stuffer's gland. So it's right by the poison sac. It's this little gland right here, right by the poison sac. Another common theme, queens will, in every circumstance that I'm going to talk about today, the hierarchy of females within the hive is going to be always queen is going to produce the most of whatever pheromone we're talking about, and then next would be lane workers, and then next would just be female workers. So queen has the most of this Stuffer's gland. It is maybe possible for her retinue formation. I was going to ask somebody if I even said that right. Retinue?
Retinue is
a word that I learned.
It's a word. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Possible for the retinue formation, which is this. Before I learned the word retinue, I thought it was just called attendant bees. Okay, so that's the attendant bees. If anyone's brand new like I am to this, the attendant bees are all around here. So the queen is constantly putting out her own blend of these 5 pheromones. Again, enter my father to explain this to us. Very, very high level science that I'm not going to explain. But so anytime we're talking about queen substance, queen mandibular pheromone, queen pheromone, however I end up saying it, we're talking about her blend of these 5 substances, okay? And those are impacting every bee in the hive. And this is a very fascinating little point we'll rein in at the very end as well. But just because she is the one bee in the whole colony that's pumping out these pheromones, it's also, she's not a dictator. This is not a top-down orders from Queen Bee. That's what I learned. It's Clarence's point, so if you have questions, you can take it up with him. But that is what he said. So you'll see at the very end, it's a feedback system within the whole colony for these pheromones, okay? So tarsal gland. So she has a little pheromone sac right here on her foot. So this big dark picture of the foot is a bigger version of this little tiny, tiny piece, okay? So very, very, very tiny, tiny stuff that we're talking about. That's a blow up of that little tiny foot. And this is the tarsal pheromone sac right here. So beeswax acts like a sponge, right? We need to change out the beeswax every couple of years for maybe the pesticides accumulating over time. Beeswax absorbs everything. So she is leaving a little trail everywhere she walks with her pheromone, which I think is just amazing. And again, she's going to secrete higher from that gland than anybody else. Okay, okay, so her little retinue. So queen bee, she has her little queen substance, her little concoction of her 5 chemicals. It's coming out a little bit everywhere she walks around. Some is also going to be lost by her attendants. We have lickers, they're literally licking her. The majority of their attention is going to be on her head and her abdomen because that's where those glands are mostly concentrated. So they're going to brush her with their antennas, and then they're going to lick up some of that pheromone too. The lickers swallow 40% of the pheromone that they are licking up. And then the queens are actually internalizing some too. So some is lost a variety of ways, right? But there still is plenty to go around. Clarence said that just for hypothetical reasons, a pheromone takes about 15, he said 3 to 20 minutes to be spread throughout the entire hive. So this is a fairly quick way to communicate with thousands and thousands of your friends. There are a number of variables that would impact the quality of the queen substance. So if she's virgin or mated, plays an impact. She's going to have higher level after she's been mated. And then genetics, Italians have higher levels. And then age really is what stood out to me the most because as far as practical terms, I mean, she's probably mated already, right, when she's in your hive, and therefore her genetics are set. So for us, the biggest practical thing that we can manage within this whole system is her age. I was shocked. He said that 2 years plus is considered ancient. I thought that was a little harsh, but that's what he said. So it's a huge, huge shout out to tracking your queens, keeping good documentation, because if really the only variable that we can adjust is age, does you no good unless you know how old your queen is, right? So it's a huge plug for good documentation for sure.
Jenna,
Yes.
if they're ancient, do they just put out less pheromones, or is it less quality?
Both. Oh, yes, yes. Yep. So her pheromone is going to, like I said, makes an impact on everything in the hive. I don't know if you can read these little tiny things. It's going to impact on swarm clustering, drone mating. So fascinatingly enough, when the queen is just emerged within the hive still, those first couple of days, the drones are not attracted to her yet. They're attracted to her pheromone when she reaches her flying altitude, 20 to 100 feet. I don't know how that works. It's just amazing. Her queen pheromone also is going to stimulate the worker foraging, again, stimulate the retinue behavior, that do first thing we mentioned, cleaning, all of the jobs. And then these little red lines are to say her queen signal is going to hopefully put the kibosh on laying workers happening and on the queen rearing and the supersedure, right? If her queen pheromone is powerful enough to be getting around to doing its job, then those avenues to replace her should hopefully not be happening. This was, I wrote that down. So fascinating too, this kind of goes again to the very end. He was telling us that queens, before they lay, she is measuring the width of the cell with her legs to say, should I lay a worker or a drone? Amazing, I didn't know that. So this is a picture of the queen ovary, okay, compared to worker and a lane worker. Okay, so you can see even with lane worker, nowhere near the capacity that we need for an actual sustainable hive, right? I mean, they're trying, but it's not gonna happen. Queen has about 150 ovarials per ovary, and they should be cranking out about 1,500 eggs a day. This is just another about the queen ovary is here, and then worker ovary and lane worker ovary. Okay, no comparison. And then this was a lane worker kind of in development. They just dissected over time. So to see over time that organ is trying to grow, but it's not going to work. So when things go awry, you have a lane worker, right? I got to see this the other day. Kind of cool, kind of terrible for me. But I saw that in real life. I saw a little bee lay an egg, and it was not my queen. And fascinating with this as well, those eggs you could see them sticking from the sides. Not necessarily, a 4 or 5 on the bottom, but even eggs sticking from the sides, that's a lane worker too, because her abdomen is not long enough to reach all the way down into the bottom of the cell where the egg should be deposited. So they'll just be sticking on the sides, and that's what I watched. It was cool and terrible. And then, of course, all of that, those eggs will just, if they develop at all, will just be only drones. So again, not sustainable to your apiary at all. Okay, so if everything was going right, we wouldn't ever have a new queen, right? But things happen. So eventually we're going to need a new queen. So they're produced under emergency, supersedure, and then swarming, okay? Emergency is going to be always the lowest quality prompt for a new queen. So some examples, emergency would be beekeeper whoopsie. I almost had this for myself too. I'm sure it will happen eventually. I was trying to mark a queen and we almost had a little splat. So it can happen. It can happen. So beekeeper whoopsie is a good example of emergency. And then the other two examples are going to be some variation of that her pheromone is not strong enough. We should be thinking age. It's the only factor that really can change, right? So not as powerful pheromone, or is not getting adequately distributed, or both. And that's going to be this situation for supersedure or swarm. And then swarm combined that with congestion in the hive and weak queen pheromone. That's what we're going to be looking at. Okay. So again, just huge for marking. Does anybody not mark their queens? I didn't until recently. Don't. Record keeping, know how old your queens are? Some yes, some no. Okay, I'm right there with you. It's okay.
You mark them, and sometimes you have to go back in there and you see a new queen and you're going, oh, that's not the one I marked. Right, that's good for record keeping, yep.
Jenna, are you only marking them for age now? Is that why?
I'm marking them because I need to get on it. Yeah, I need better organization, absolutely for age.
So now that
Absolutely.
you've seen this, you're thinking about their age.
Yep, so recommendation was to requeen, if your queen is still there by the 2nd year, ancient.
I had one last 3 years though.
That's the thing, that's why he shocked me so much by saying 2 years, kick her out.
So he just said kill her if she's more than 2
That
years.
is ancient.
Off with her head.
Yep. Yep.
On
And
the
so-
front stoop it goes.
Hope it wasn't.
So you queen grafters that you mentioned, some people are going to be starting on queen grafting. I don't know if they mentioned this. It's a new word that I learned, sculpturing. I don't know if you've heard that. So he was saying that so there are a few things that you want to look at with choosing another queen cell for a replacement. So the size, literally, so she needs space in there, right? All that royal jelly to eat and to grow and develop, and we want a big size queen if we can. So the amount of sculpturing on the outside of the little cell, he said that more sculpturing can indicate that they paid more attention to the cell, and so that could be a queen that was tended to better as she was developing, so to go for a higher sculpturing and then combine that with the size as well.
Interesting.
Okay. So, oh my gosh, we're almost done. I went so fast. Great. So, what causes a queen to lay in a queen cup? This is fascinating. Hypothesis is that some of the queen's original pheromone, after it's lost all these different ways, right? It's lost from the liquors, it's lost from her trail across her feet, her body absorbs some. He said some is ultimately returned to her. And so when that level drops below a certain threshold, then that is her prompt to go lay her replacement. I found that fascinating. So from what I take from that is that she is a bee just like any other bee, and trying to meet the expectations of her role, governed by pheromones, just like any other bee. They just happen to be her own. But that is the hypothesis for a prompt of when she would go lay in a queen cup. Amazing. So you have the top points on your piece of paper. Top points would be colonies should be led by young, vigorous queens. Best are queens that were reared when the nutritional conditions were excellent and mated when there was a large drone population present. If you see queen cells in your hive, pheromone balance is not quite right, and you as a beekeeper have to decide what to do. That is the end. This is my little retinue. Those are my little attendant bees. That's my name and number. And I love swarms and bees in strange places. Call me if you get yourself into a pickle. I would love to join, if only to document and have fun with you. That would be a blast. I absolutely love that. And I do still feel very new at this. It's the start of my third year. So this talk and many others have been a huge plug to me for record keeping. I'm ashamed to say I just now developed, well, it's always going to be in development, I hope, but I'm doing better record keeping now. So I would gladly, if you email me and you have nothing, you're not doing record keeping at all, I'll email you what I've just developed for myself. It's small scale. I have 4 hives. I probably wouldn't use it with any more than 10 or 15. And if you have records, forms of your own that you've come up with, please email me. I would love to see. I'm sure mine are missing something because I came up with it. And that is it. Let me show you this guy. So this is the hog half cone. We're going to give this a try this year. So this entire box, you can I got online. But this middle part is, you can buy just replacement for just the middle part. Okay, and save, so you can save a little bit of money doing that. So the bees can come and go just fine. Just set it on the top, same as you would any other honey super. Bees can come and go, build out your honeycomb, and then when it's done, these just break apart and put on a lid and you're done. That's it. Cool. Let you know how it goes.
We would like pictures of how it goes.
Okay. You got it.
Yeah, we'll continue it.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, you got some, I'm asking Mickey to do and show you is, this is a normal hive. He's going to demonstrate how to make a nuke out of a normal hive. And he's already labeled all the bees, all the frames, to tell you what's in there. And so if you go into your hive, this is what you're going to get. And then he's going to tell you how to split.
How many people are going to split for the purpose of increasing their hives this year?
Split.
How many people are afraid to? How many people just don't want to because it'll be messing with my bees and might destroy them? Might be a bad thing.
It's better than them swarming.
Exactly. Yeah, if you look at it as a forced swarm, in other words, take them apart before they take themselves apart, then you're doing yourself a favor, and you're probably saving the swarm too, because not all swarms live. When they leave, they're on their own. Some make it, some don't. Not that you might make a split that might not make it too, but your chances are pretty good if you do it right. Now the big thing is, when you make these things, and you're hopefully making a split for your own benefit to increase your numbers, if you have 3 hives, there's no reason why you couldn't have 5 next year if you do it correctly and early enough. Don't try to do these in August and expect great things. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But if you do one of these in April, even May, they'll have plenty of resources, and of course they'll need feeding, mite control, that sort of thing, like anybody else. But and while they're queenless, or while they're broodless, you can sometimes do the oxalic treatment, but most of the time you'll move enough brood, as I'll show you, that you won't be able to use oxalic acid. I'm using a medium box because that's all I have. I don't use deeps, but normally this would be a deep brood box, your bottom box, maybe your second box this time of year. But what you want to do is identify the particular box in your hive that has the mass of brood in it. The queen is in here, she's working, she's laying, and you have different stages of brood. You have capped brood, you have a mixture of capped and uncapped, and you have open brood possibly. But you get into April, May, there's going to be an awful lot of brood right here, and some food. And there'll typically always be some food in the brood box as well. What I would encourage you to do is have your secondary hive ready to go, and that will have some drawn comb and some new comb, or new foundation, plastic or wax. And if you have all drawn comb, that's wonderful, but I think most of us would like to have a whole lot more than we have. But I'll show you how to put that new comb, or new foundation in here and make it work. So what you want to do as you start to pull these things out, we'll take all of these out. This can be a 5-frame nuke, or this can be a 8-frame box, or a 10-frame box. If you do this during nectar flow, which is April, May, you can use a regular box. You don't have to use a nuke. They will eventually fill it up. But if you do this real early or real late in the year, you don't want to overdo the space. So keep that in mind. What we're going to do is pull out of this. There's 2 different schools of thought on these splits. You can move the queen with the split, or you can leave the queen behind with the hive. More times than not, unless I made a mistake and moved the queen and didn't know it, I'm going to leave the queen in the regular hive. Try both ways. You know, it works both ways, and I'll show you why. You'll want to go in here and pull out frames that have substantial amounts of closed or capped brood and open brood and pollen. You'll see pollen on brood frames around the edges. Be sure you pull pollen out as well. And I'll show you this in just a second. Now, if you're not going to take the queen out, be sure you don't take the queen out. You know, a lot of times if I am lucky enough to, you know, and I'll tell you a little trick. It's not a good idea to take the middle frame out first, but if you take the middle frame out second, you'll find the queen pretty quick. Especially in April and May, she's going to be right here or in the box above it, same place. Test it, you'll see. That's where she likes to be. Chris Robbins used to call that the elevator queen. She goes up and down right in the middle. But be sure you know where the queen is. If you're not moving her, know where she is, and don't hurt her. So we're pulling out brood with pollen, and everybody knows the ring of pollen around the brood. Be sure you get that. Be sure you get food, which is honey, and put it as close as you can to the brood. And I'm going to leave a frame of drawn comb for them to work, because they're going to have an opening on this, and they're going to be flying. They're going to be bringing in nectar. They're going to be building comb. Now what do you do with what's left? You have to be ready. Don't close the box up without these. And then if you use new foundation, you need to checkerboard it. And if you wait until April and May, you can do this very, very easily. If you do this in March, it's going to be too cold to separate the brood. Don't even try. But wait till you can separate the brood, put your new foundation, your drawn comb, and that sort of thing. And what you're doing, without realizing it, is you've created a gorgeous swarm. You've pulled out all of those bees, you pulled out all of that brood, and now the bees have seen a huge relaxation in the population, and hopefully that they've got more room for the queen, and she's not going to go into panic mode, and they're not going to go into panic mode, and so on. If you've already seen queen cells, that's a whole different story. You better put on your Nikes and get going, because once they're capped, it's hard to turn it around and prevent them from swarming. But if you pull queen cells out of there that have just been capped or are about to be capped with larvae and royal jelly in them, then you definitely want to move those cells over here. But let's say we don't have queen cells. This is just a typical split, and you've got a queen to put in it. You bought a queen. I gave you a queen. Who knows where it came from? You got you a live queen. Then that's very easy to do. Put it in the box between the broods that you put in there. 2 broods, 1 queen cell. Okay? Let them work that queen cell for a few days. Let them feed it. You can put some queen candy that you made out of confectioner's sugar and honey in the bottom of it to feed her, but they'll feed her too. Leave it in there for 2-3 days, and then open it and let her go. That's another option. If you pull a queen cell off of something, or you buy a queen cell, then say that's the queen cell you have, and this is a protector. You can put it in there, same deal, leave it in there, it'll hatch on time. They'll accept her a whole lot better sometimes than you will a live queen. Another option is buying the live queen already ready to go. This is probably one of the most precarious ways to do a split, because not always successful, because she's a queen bee that they don't know. They know her, they don't know her. But if you put it in there and she's got candy, she's got a way to live, if you put her in there and close it up for 3 to 5 days, let them get her pheromone through all these openings and into the hive, and you can either put this candy cup on where they can chew through it and let her out in 3 or 4 days, or you can manually release her in 3 or 4 days. That works too, but there's some less success in that than putting a queen cell in. I like to put the queen cells in. Although I do incubate queens, hatch them, and put them in live too. So there's different ways to do it. Something to play with though, you know. Now, the only thing that I would say is not doing anything gets you nothing. So try it, you know. It's not very complicated, you know, it's just common sense, you know. When they're bringing in the nectar, they're bringing in the pollen, they're building comb, put the blanks in between the established honeycomb, and they'll fill it out. Don't leave any holes like that, you know. Push everything together from the outside. Piece of cake.
How long does it take them to make a queen cell over there if there's nothing?
Okay, if you move these guys, to force them to make an emergency queen, then they're going to start building if you put the right brood in there. Now that's a different story. You have to put in brood that has just hatched from eggs. And that is the small white comma. The egg being the straight rice, then the first small comma-shaped larvae, which is the same size as the egg. Hard to tell the difference. The egg is standing up or laying down. The queen, potential queen brood is the comma-shaped, small comma.
That's what you graft too.
Pray to Jesus that you have some in there.
Well, you hope, you also pray that they use that comma and not the one that's a little older, that's already gotten too much protein in it. And
Here's the easy way to do it. Pick up the brood. Here's your brood frame, and there's a ring of
Yeah.
brood like this, or like this, depends on how they're working. And honey pollen around here, capped brood in the middle, grub larvae here, very easy to see, small larvae a little harder to see, tiny larvae, and then eggs. Right next to the eggs is the smallest larvae, because the queen is laying out.
Okay.
Find the eggs and move in toward the capping, and you'll get the smallest larvae.
Okay.
You don't have to get it if you're gonna force them to do queen cells. Be sure you move that without a queen.
Yeah.
Then what they'll do is they'll build queen cells on that.
Okay.
and then you can pick the one you like, especially one that's got more, what'd you call that? Sculpturing.
Dimples.
Impulse.
You would be so amazed how fast, like 6 days, there's capped queen cells in here, if we got the right larvae.
Well, we did it.
Well, we did a couple years ago, walking splits.
6 days,
We
there'll
ran
be,
like hell.
there'll
We
be
didn't
queen
know really
cells.
what we were doing, we just had to.
And you don't put
In
a.
10 days after you see
You don't put
this
a
capped
queen
queen
in that.
cells, she hatches.
Oh, they're fast.
Things move fast. 16 days after you put this together, you could have a queen cell ready to hatch.
Okay.
So,
Maybe we had cookie split.
Has
but
anybody seen any drones?
One of my hives already had broken.
Oh, wonderful.
but remember, the weakest queens were from the emergency cells.
Yeah.
If you have or not super seeders, but if you have queen cells in here from possible swarm activity, those are the
strong.
best ones.
On that,
And they're always on the bottom.
Yes.
Get
how
that
do you-
bottom up, and they'll be right there.
how do you take a cell off and put it on that little cup thing you had there? What do you gotta do, seal the top of it or something?
Well, if you have a cell on a frame, it's
Uh-huh.
usually pretty easy to take off, to shear off, and then go back in and stick it back into the wax again on wherever you're moving
Because
it.
they'll build out just a little bit from it and they'll build down to get that big queen cell that they like to have. And that little bit is where you're gonna cut to get back there. I'm thinking of using a flossing stick, this year, because I haven't had much luck trying to get those off like that.
Yeah, these protectors are actually designed to cover the queen cell when it's been grafted and grows on the insert, and then it can be slipped
Because it
over
was
it.
like-
Then
it's
the
so
whole thing
small.
can be dropped in.
Oh, so the top
Because
of it's
the
still
queen-
protected
The
too?
queen comes out the end,
Mm-hmm.
the
The bees chewing the side.
the bees that want to kill the queen, which would be another queen or some angry, mature worker bees, they can't get to her. Once she gets out, they'll probably have enough time by then to accept her.
So you're gonna cut that queen cell off the bottom of that frame and you're gonna set it in that protecting cover and you're gonna put it in your
Well,
new box.
the joy about using mediums and a deep box, I can move the whole frame with the cells on the bottom and stick
And
them
not
right
even worry
there.
about it, right?
Yep.
And they're ready to go, right there. And they work just fine like that. You put a deep on, pull a deep out, put a deep in here, you're gonna smash it.
Right.
So then
You
you
gotta put the protecting.
then you kind of
cover
come back with a plan B, which is putting some spacers under here and raising it up and that sort of thing.
Or build it deeper?
Right.
How late in the season can you split hives? Because I realize now that last year I probably it was showing signs that it needed to be split late in the summer.
Well, I did splits until August,
Okay, so you can't do it.
well
later.
into August.
Be prepared to feed.
And I had queens mating until the end of July.
Okay.
So I could keep splitting as those queens were ready, but yeah, you have to feed these a little bit. And new boxes, like these guys right here, they have a punch out hole right here. You can put a jar upside down on it with holes
Okay.
in it. Any number of ways to feed them. Any other questions?
How long do you leave it in that box before you transport it to a place?
Well, I've got wooden new boxes.
Yeah.
That I would start them in, or my favorite is a 10 frame with a divider in it that has two, an opening here and an opening here, and it has two nukes in the same box.
Oh, okay.
That's my favorite. Then if I need more extra room, then I put nuke boxes on top of it.
Oh, okay.
One of the guys at the TBA conference also said he likes to put that nuke right beside the hive that he's splitting, and then just either turns it around or he moves the hive over and swaps places with the old hive and the new hive, so that all the foragers will come in to the new split and giving it some warmth and some bees. So that was another thing that was something to remember. When the foragers come back, they're coming back to the new hive, and they don't care. It's just in the same place they were, they left. All you do is switch the boxes. So that.
Another tool is called a double screen board, and if you do these in the early spring, like if you do them in the next month, you're going to have cold nights, and it's hard to get starts in cold weather. But you can put a double screen on here. Instead of using a nuke box, use another like box and put everything in the middle and put either drawn comb or frame feeders or something here so you don't leave an open space. Set that new box on that screen, and that heat from the bottom heats the new family as well, and have an opening opposite of the other. So they're creating a whole new colony up here and sharing the heat. Even though they're small, they only have 5 frames of bees in product, they have the benefit of all that heat from the colony below. But you don't have to do that in May, June.
Doesn't that kind of screw up the theory of having the box facing south-southeast? Because if you got one turned around, or one facing south-southeast, you're not going to turn the other one around, you're not going to have that.
Well, you know why you face it southeast?
So they get the morning sun?
For warmth, yeah. You don't need that in May and June and that sort of thing.
But in April, you mean?
But you benefit from the warmth here.
Okay.
I've got mine going in southeast, east, west,
Yeah,
How are they
it's hard to do that
They're doing
religiously.
fine.
Yeah, they can survive pointing in any direction. I've got my mating nukes pointed in 3 different directions. They're in a U shape.
Yes.
They're pointing in, they're actually pointing in north, east, and west, because I've got hives on the south side and I don't want them flying into the hives. Work fine. Anything else?
Any questions, everybody? Any more?
Chris is going to do this tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing it the rest of this week.
Good.
And I'll probably use a couple of these double screen boxes I've got somewhere in there, tracing them down. But is that all we had today? Yeah. Well, thanks, Mickey. We're going to come look at his nice tape job on all his new frames. It's really cool.
Yeah.